Hello and welcome to This Car Pod.
I'm Kennan.
I'm Filippo.
And today we have a banger for you. Get it started with the news. The Corvette ZR1, noted fast automobile, has gone on a little tour of racetracks all throughout the country, and it has set lap records at these racetracks. Wow. They were Watkins Glen, Road America, Road Atlanta, where Kennan has driven. Mm-hmm. Really?
No.
Okay, I have. And VIR in Virginia. They set records on, now couple interesting things. Number one, the records were set by like Chevy engineers.
That's very cool.
Like people
What
who
a
like
perk of the job.
Like kind of regular people, basically.
engineers. They have a pretty good knowledge of how the thing works, but they're not pro. Like if you got Randy Popst out there, I bet he'd beat these records.
Absolutely.
These are, by the way, the records were like production car records. Now, the engineers, it's impressive.
That's very impressive.
However, the car has 1,100 horsepower and does 235 miles an hour. So like, could you or I have done this? Maybe.
Hold on a second there. That is impressive because to keep a car with that kind of power on the track as a novice, like
true.
Me driving a 400 horsepower heavy car on slowly was hard. Like that's pretty impressive that all the systems work well enough to keep it on the track.
Yeah. Well, they have intimate knowledge of the system. See,
True.
Maybe race car drivers are not the fastest. Maybe the people who designed the race cars and they know every little geometric angle.
I think Lewis Hamilton might have some
Maybe
things to
Ferrari should get rid of Lewis and instead hire whatever.
a computer.
I find it fascinating that you think that these 7 gentlemen are the only engineers who have worked on the Corvette.
The Corvette from start to finish was worked on these 7 guys.
They spend evenings, they spend weekends coding every part of it.
Yeah,
tweaking every suspension.
No, they had to work hard because it's only 7 fellas.
Right.
And
luckily they got to race it.
yeah, and this guy oversaw the whole team. And that guy at the end. Yep. And these guys,
Maybe it was this guy. I don't know.
Look, really the point is, it's legit. And the other point is, the ZR1 is really, really fast.
Yeah. Other fast cars have gone around those tracks.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's just that and...
Yeah.
I can't think of a good example.
It's really impressive. And also,
Chevy
obviously, this is just another notch in the thing of, okay, American cars are not just fast in a straight line. We've known that now for like 10 years, but this is just such a great example of it. I haven't yet driven the ZR1. They sent it here. It was a drivable car. They told me not to drive it. A man drove it under the lift and then down. And
meanwhile, they're giving it to engineers to go thrash it around a track.
These guys are at VIR with it. What about me?
I trust them more than you.
Yeah, same, honestly.
No, that is a seriously impressive feat. You know, the ZR1 is what we've kind of been waiting for from a platform to see what this platform can really do. Mid-engine, like the extreme version of a mid-engine sports car from the United States. I mean, other than the Ford GT, of course, but here we are.
Although that is Canadian, the new one.
That is Canadian.
Here's the thing. They're going to make another more powerful Corvette. You're hearing it here first, folks. And it's going to have the same situation, but a hybrid, and it's going to have the front battery and the front all-wheel drive situation. It's going to have 1,400 horsepower, okay? I'm telling you all this. It's going to be even faster than this.
Hard to imagine.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine. Maybe then the engineers won't be able to set the lap records in that thing. They'll need a pro.
They'll need a pro for that.
Or a computer, it turns out.
Of course, we'd say that if we had heard that there was going to be an 1,100 horsepower, 830 pound-feet of torque one, and then they did it. Okay, move on to our next news story. Ah, yes, BMW. You read about this?
I did read a little bit about this.
BMW has come out with center lock wheels, which are a noted wheel design that inconveniences the people who own them.
Right. Is it BMW services weren't inconvenient enough?
BMW is coming out with center lock wheels.
Worse. Instead of 5, you only have to get rid of 1.
You're right. You do only have to get rid of, so center lock wheels, instead of 5 lug nuts, you have 1 lug nut. The drawback is that in order to take the single lug nut off the car, you need torque that only can be provided by the Concorde.
Yes, you need to be able to hit a stick with Thor's hammer to get it off.
My understanding is if you have a bar long enough, you can do like a roadside tire change, but the bar has to be like the length of 4 Filippos stacked on top of each other.
Wow. Or it's not that long.
Or one Filippo wearing a giraffe shirt. But it does require an incredible amount of torque. The center locks are great for racing applications where you need to take wheels on and off the car very quickly. For a road car that's going in for brake pads,
it's just bragging rights.
I mean, it's purely bragging rights, and it does add cost, it adds a lot of complication, and then inevitably some tech won't know what they're doing and will strip something. It's just like
if it's damaged and you got to replace one of these center lock wheels. Okay, so I didn't mention, but they're $20,000 extra, and they're $20,000 United States dollars.
That car costs in 3 years.
And their
entire car.
They're only going to be offered on a few of the models.
Not wrong.
But if you damage one of the wheels, presumably the 20 grand is actually kind of a deal because they're doing it at scale. If you had to buy an individual wheel, I have a suspicion it's going to be a lot more. And yes, it is a silly thing. Like, I think it's silly. I have obviously the car with the center locks, the Courage GT. It's cool, but like, I I'm not out here trying to add more center lock automobiles to my fleet. You can't do anything with that.
Right. I mean, not that you're working on the Carrera GT necessarily anyway.
But if you have a flat,
if you have a flat, or BMW people are more tinkery than Carrera GT owners are, if we're honest. So you can't really. I mean,
I replaced the front hood struts myself.
I did those.
Well, someone did.
Yes, it was me. But it is 20 grand is a lot for what is. 4 hubs, and I mean, that feels like a lot of money.
Especially because it just adds complication and annoyance to your life.
How many people are gonna?
But they look cool. I've seen a picture.
Cool.
This picture shows them, I guess. But I've seen a picture with the car like wearing them, like a full out shot of a car. Right. They look cool. And if your M5 had been offered with center locks, 20 years later, you're driving your M5. Yep, I got the center locks. That would be a point of dragging.
Are they carbon fiber? Like, are they expensive wheels to start with?
They're center locks, dude. This is for the racetrack.
Is the cost because of the center lock or because the wheel is costly, period?
I'm going to tell you this. If the ZR1 had center locks at VIR, those engineers would have been even faster.
At tire changes, probably.
But it turned out it didn't need them.
Yeah.
So they were just as fast.
So anyway, that's BMW. So BMW's getting cooler. And in fact, we have another story about BMW getting cooler, which is for some reason later in the news, but pull it up now and let's talk about it.
Sure, I'd like to talk about it. So BMW has announced, so it's Frank Weber, or Frank Weber, I suspect is how it's actually pronounced.
In Germany.
Announced in Deutschland, announced that BMW is keeping the V8 motor. They have said that there are specific markets for, the 6 cylinders make plenty of power, and they can keep those around, but there are specific markets for whom the feel isn't enough. They want the luxurious sound and feel and power delivery of a V8, specifically the American, Middle Eastern markets, and so they're keeping the V8 around.
Yep. How about that?
So BMW gets a lot of, flack for how their cars look and, like they're charging for all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Keeping V8s around, I salute that.
Americans want V8s. They literally said due to America and the Middle East, which are politically two foes, but enginally, they're friends.
This is one of your great points. It's so
I'm telling you, if Republicans would just go to the Middle East, they'd be like, yep.
V8s and pigs, baby.
No, but really, so that's interesting.
It is interesting. Now, but BMW, I mean, I hate to bring up my car again, but BMW learned this early on. The E34 M5 6-cylinder did not sell well in the United States. They were considering killing M altogether for the United States market for that, and for E30 M3 and all, like those cars didn't sell well. They put a V8 in the M5, and all of a sudden it sold dramatically better.
Yeah, and then they did the same in the E9X M3, and then they got rid of it.
Downsizing did eventually strike them, but the fact that they're keeping V8s around, it is interesting.
There is a broader point here which is worth discussing, which is that when this podcast started, this is our 47th episode. Happy birthday to us.
Almost at
when
50.
This podcast started, happy 47th birthday.
Sure.
When this podcast started, I feel like every show for the first 6 months was about EVs killing everything. Now we got BMW saying, nope, the V8 is going to stay, and then go to the Dodge story. There it is, my favorite.
Dodge's CEO has implied in an interview this week that there's room for V8s in Charger land. Okay,
I got a lot to say about this.
Yes.
A lot to say. First off, when I bought my last call Challenger, I bought 6 of them to try to flip. They're all in my house with the plastic still on them.
Yep.
I was told that they would stop making powerful.
Do you remember the Durango 392 issue?
Yeah, the people sued them.
392 and the Durango SRT issue. They said it was going to be 1 year only. It was not 1 year only.
And then Chrysler got sued.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Chrysler is they're fly by night. They're fly by night. They're just doing whatever they can to get units out the door.
100%.
I respect it.
Can I read a quote from him from that interview?
I love this quote.
All right. One of the things that's encouraging is that the change in leadership, the head of FCA was pushed out. V8s are no longer a bad word around here.
Yep.
Thank God.
And how about that? Now, another interesting thing I found out about this car. When this car was first announced, my recollection, which might be wrong, but my recollection was the Charger and Challenger are going EV.
Yep. There's actually a Charger behind, whatever it's called is behind you.
Then it kind of, I don't know if it was dialed back or if it was intended to go this way, but then they said, no, we're going to put the Hurricane in it. Maybe that was initially announced, but for me, when I heard about it, it was EV only.
They announced it as a year later, and then they moved it up very quickly.
Okay, so then they're going to put the Hurricane, which is a 6-cylinder, and a pretty good engine, but not a V8. Now, implying that V8s might make it in the Charger. I'm going to break the news right here on this pod. There's going to be a V8 Charger, okay? Don't go buying a Hurricane just yet.
Do they have a V8?
Yeah, they got a V8.
Does the Ram still have a V8 in some iteration?
392. That's an interesting question. They obviously have V8s because they didn't, they still are making those.
Right.
But that's an interesting point. What do they have that has a V8? I mean, it's gone in from the Wagoneer. Maybe there's Ram still, but
There must still be a Ram.
They'll dust one off, throw it in there.
But
Cold ones.
the point is, they're going to do it in the Charger, which I consider to be one of the great cars.
If there's a business case. Is what he said. Which,
that is the business.
Let me tell you what the business case is, because I've been driving around in the electric one.
yeah, it's behind Doug.
The business case is the vehicle behind me, the electric Charger, will be purchased by no one at any time. And so in order to actually sell these automobiles, they will need to put V8s in them.
It's a Dodge
maybe some
dealership.
people-
They will sell it to somebody who thinks they're getting the Hurricane version.
Or maybe they sell it to some people in Orange County. Like that's the rare.
I don't even think they're going to.
I don't think it's expensive. It is.
This
pretty
is a
expensive.
$75,000 electric car. Okay, let's talk Charger EV because we're here.
Please, let's.
And we're doing it,
Yes.
and let's just talk about Charger EV. I have the Charger EV this week. I am exceptionally excited for this car because it has been trashed by everybody from Motor Trend to Throttle House. That's the span.
It's the full gamut.
full
From
gamut.
Canada to the U.S.
Right. So they sent me one,
Yes, Canada.
right, it's already made in Canada.
It is made in Canada.
How did Throttle House trash it? It's a homegrown product.
Yeah, come on, Jason
Anyway,
Thomas.
so they sent it to me, and I've been driving it around, and I got to tell you, there are things that would make it great, like a V8. It's not that bad.
It makes some interesting sounds.
Okay, the electric one makes sounds which are I wouldn't want to say embarrassing. I would want to say tremendously embarrassing. Well, how would you?
Excruciatingly embarrassing. Like befitting.
However, I'm being serious for a second. Okay, the car drives pretty well. It's 5,800 pounds, which is 1,500 pounds more than the outgoing Challenger Hellcat. Not just a regular one, a Heli with the big ol'.
Wow.
That's what we call it in the Hemi community.
Big old.
But they've neutralized it fairly well. It doesn't drive as floaty as you look at it. It's a foot longer than the old Challenger. It's 1,500 pounds heavier. You'd think it's going to be massive to drive. They actually neutralize the weight fairly well.
An inch longer than an Odyssey.
It's an inch longer than a Honda Odyssey, but it only has 2 doors.
Not, yeah.
Hey, XJ220 is longer than every
that's-
car.
Yeah, that's multiple counties are taken up in like.
MC12 is as long as this office.
Well, and then both versions of it. One's shorter, one's long, short.
Even
one's
the shorty.
longer. Yeah.
But anyway, my point is, it actually drives pretty well. And I was driving and I was thinking to myself, if this wasn't a $75,000 electric car, but instead was a $57,000 V8 car, I actually think it would have been pretty well received by the market. And I truly and honestly have enjoyed driving the car, and I think it's cool.
And
But not with an electric powertrain and not with an $80,000 sticker
It says
price.
stage 2 on the side.
You want me to explain that?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
And whatever symbol's above it.
Okay, here's the deal. The symbol above it is a historical nod to the Chargers of yore, which were obviously also electric.
Oh, it's also on that one. Great.
The stage 2, here's the deal that I learned. The car, this one here, has 670 horsepower. It's a stage 2. The regular stage 1 cars have 590 horse. But in order to sell the early ones, they put the stage 2 package on free of charge.
Right.
And yet they still haven't sold it. Anyway, the point of this news story and the point of this whole thing is, I actually think it's a pretty good car. If it had power from a V8.
160 horsepower.
If it had power from a V8 from an engine, I think it would be pretty cool.
it's the feel.
It has
I
the
want a
sound.
rumbling.
It has the rumble.
Well,
Did you hear it?
behind you. Yeah, I heard it. It is funny to think that like it has this speaker that is ear-piercingly loud. And you think there could be modifications from like there could be like a Corsa, UUC Corsa like exhaust speaker mod for this thing. But I want the rock of a V8. I mean, that's what you
It
want
rocks,
from
dude.
a-
I'm telling you, you put this thing to drag mode, it's shaking. It's shaking. But I'm not going to defend the EV thing, mostly because of the pricing. I think if it was priced at $49,995 with EV power, it'd actually be pretty appealing. But it ain't.
Also, it's building.
double.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it will not. That will depreciate faster than you can think.
However, I truly think it's a pretty good car generally, and I think they screwed up by launching it with the 2-door only and with an EV only. I think when the 4-door comes, when the Hurricane comes, if V8s come, I think this car will eventually be well received by enthusiasts. It's just not at that point yet. But I was surprised how much I like driving it. I'm surprised how much I like looking at it. It is a much better platform than the old one, which was an 8. The old one came out in 08.
Yep.
The 2-door.
I remember.
The interior is leagues ahead. The tech is leagues ahead. Like it's a much better dynamic experience.
It is.
Interesting.
It's just expensive with an electric motor.
First of all, they had to release it because they need to sell something, and the Hurricane isn't ready. Also, how much longer than an XJ or shorter than an XJ220 do you think it is?
I think it's probably 4 inches longer.
Kennan? Yeah, try to picture an
no,
XJ6 a common sight.
I think it's only 2 inches longer.
It's a foot longer.
A foot longer.
Foot longer. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
The point is, this whole thing has been interesting. And this is this and the BMW news story are tied together. Here are two brands who tried to go EV who pulled it back. We covered a couple of weeks ago that Chrysler bailed on the Airflow EV that they were going to make. I just had this Jeep Wagoneer S electric car as a press car also. It's fine. It's not going to light the world on fire. The EV pullback is here. And this is specifically interesting because it is the first car where they took a beloved gas-powered car, made it electric, and we saw what happened, which was not pretty. And that brings us to the Porsche news story.
Yep.
Which is...
One more.
Same thing.
Yeah, that's fine. Porsche has announced that they're going to work to add, that they're investing about $800 million in the next year to bring back internal combustion and hybrid-powered vehicles.
So Porsche was the other company that was going to do this. They were going to take a beloved gas-powered car and turn it into EV.
The Macan.
Yep.
No, the Boxster. What do you want to bet they don't?
I would not be
No,
surprised.
they
I
still
think
will.
they're smart. I mean, look, it happens where manufacturers develop a car, realize the concept isn't going to work, and kind of throw it away. They were developing a V8 for the 911, for instance, in the 1990s, and decided, no, we're going to stick with flat 6 power. I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if they go, you know what, it's clear the market doesn't want this, let's not do this.
I think they're going to do both.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do the EV because they're probably almost done with it. But I bet they still do a gas version.
I almost guarantee they do a gas version.
They learned from the Macan EV, which is out, not really seen a ton of them around, and they've decided to extend the lifespan of the regular Macan, but they invested all this money and time in building a new generation, and they didn't do that for the
When they
ICE.
sent me the EV, they told me, which was a great car, they told me specifically a gas version cannot be made. It was not designed for it, it cannot be made. What do you want to bet they make one?
I wouldn't be
What do you
shocked.
want to bet it just happens to work out?
But just kidding about that, very funny joke.
Mini took an interesting approach. I don't know if you remember this. Okay. Mini has there's a new Mini, and there's an EV and a gas-powered engine, or a gas-powered one. They are fully separate vehicles. They actually don't share an underlying chassis.
What? That's insane.
Why?
You
So expensive.
can
Do what the
tell some
Lightning
of the
did.
differences because the interior is notably different as a result of that. I wouldn't be shocked if Porsche updates their current platform
to
look like the new one, but it won't actually be on the new
Maybe. I'll tell you. Either way, though, these three news stories hitting this week all are very interesting. And that's in conjunction, by the way, with Porsche announcing that sales were down last year. They're forecasting a sales decline again in 25.
Yep.
I'm sitting at the dealership.
Primarily by China, not the US. In the US, there were sales increases.
Yeah, but what is selling in China is they got EVs, that Panameras, 4-doors, that they claim are not selling.
Yeah.
Porsche has the whole thing is an interesting situation, and we're seeing sort of upheaval in the car world.
Yep.
I think if you had sat here and made predictions 3 years ago, you would be surprised at what has happened.
Agreed.
Since then. And I don't think it's all political. Like there's going to be
real
incentives
demand.
changing, but I think there's some demand.
I don't even think 3 years ago, back 2 months, and I'd be surprised.
I mean, the writing was starting to get on the wall maybe a year ago. We were starting to hear of automakers pushing their EV targets back.
But even so, it is interesting. And to your point, I think there is room for EVs in these cars, but for the experiential stuff, sports cars, muscle cars.
Yeah, the Macan, very, very
Right.
much
Well,
driven by
no,
experience.
exactly. But that's exactly right. You don't need an engine in that car necessarily. Like that would be fine as an EV if it fits into your life that way, which it doesn't for everybody.
And indeed, regardless of whether it does or not, people don't seem to be buying them. I do think there needs to be a broader education on EVs for the buying public. I see so many people trashing EVs, including people for whom I actually think EVs would be pretty perfect.
Yep.
I don't think most people realize how well an EV would adapt to their lives, or they're afraid because they don't have to fill up with electric. And it's like, you don't understand, like this isn't going to be an issue for you. However, for the experiential cars, the cars that are interesting, the BMW's keeping V8s, Dodge is putting a V8 back into the Charger after saying they were going the other direction, and Porsche's saying that they're going to spend $800 million to put gas-powered versions of their cars, re-energized gas-powered versions of their cars in the lineup.
Long live the gasoline engine.
Damn. So as the point of this news story is that Porsche is going to bump up the heavy exclusive option divisions.
That's correct.
Sonderwunsch,
So we talked
which is like
last-
special wishes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We talked and they also have another one that's like exclusive something. Exclusive, but German, which is related. We talked last week about how for Ferrari, something like 25% of their revenue came from
20%. Yeah.
from options.
Just options alone.
It's not surprising that they want to make extra money on the same thing, right? Give people a little bit more what they want, charge heavily for it.
Yep.
I mean, fundamentally, paint a sample at this point is just a catalog of colors.
It is one of the most laughable things in the world. Porsche charges like 15 grand for a paint to sample. No one is submitting samples. They're just choosing colors from the old days, which they just have, like available.
It's a specific subset.
These rich guys think they got something special. They're like, I got this paint to sample. What was the sample? Oh, it was a color they made in 2007.
Cassis red.
Right. This Sonderwischen, whatever, Sonderheit, I don't know, I don't speak German, is that next level where maybe you can get something a little bit more special.
I still want a Cayman shooting brake. What do I have to do?
Pay.
Do I have to go to Germany and knock on some doors? One time I was in Germany and I tried to order at a McDonald's drive-thru using English and it didn't work because they didn't speak English and I didn't speak German.
Seems eminently reasonable.
Yeah. It was really cold. Yeah.
That's the McDonald's or the temperature outside?
No, it was
both.
It was like February, and
it's a hard time.
I had just seen a ZJ Grand Cherokee, which I was really excited about.
That is very exciting.
Yeah. Okay, give us the next news story, please.
I have to skip through a couple.
Lucid. Filippo, tell us about Lucid.
Lucid said last week.
Yeah.
First of all, this is the Lucid Gravity. As you're aware.
Minivan. It's like a minivan.
It's an SUV.
Yeah. It really does.
I don't know.
They'll insist.
I've spent a lot of time looking at cars. That's a minivan. I'm just going to say it.
Their CEO, Peter Rawlinson, has said that he wants Lucid to shift gears a little bit and be 20% focused on their own vehicles. 80% focused on being a supplier for other manufacturers. Like Intel is basically what he said, right? Where there are Intel chips in computers, they want their motors and drivetrains and components to be in other manufacturers' cars. They had a deal for a little bit with Aston Martin to provide their electric vehicle motors. And Lucid, to their credit, is very well known for having some of the most advanced motor design, some of the smallest motors, the most power. So it makes some sense. The question is, does any manufacturer want that right now?
Well, probably. I mean, yeah, that's an interesting point. We're sitting here talking about how automakers are cagey about EVs. Lucid is struggling, although I read in one of these press releases, or in one of these stories about this exact topic, that Lucid wants to sell 1 million cars globally.
Sure, if you count all components.
By the early 2030s. Yeah. And last year they sold like 5,400 cars.
No, they sold more than that.
That's ambitious on a level that is actually kind of difficult to describe.
That's like Filippo actually wanting to become a giraffe.
Like,
I'm not saying you can't.
Which is more likely, do you think? That that with the minivan and the car.
It's an SUV.
I mean, hey man, he's already got the shirt. He's halfway there. He's closer than that.
He's closer now. It's an interesting idea. Lucid, which they've been preaching these special, beautiful cars. I mean, the Sapphire was incredible. Now they're sitting here saying, you know what? We actually want the vast majority of our business to not really be making the cars.
I get it though, because they certainly had a lot of trouble getting demand up for their vehicles, and it is really hard to launch a full brand and get marketing out, get dealerships, make sure that that's a good experience for your buyers. Providing componentry, being an equipment provider for OEMs, that's a known model that could work, especially because a lot of OEMs probably don't want to invest the hundreds of millions of dollars that it would take to develop their own batteries and electric motors and other componentry.
I guess.
But Rivian and Volkswagen.
I drove that Xiaomi SU7 and they're...
Well, this was the
they also buy parts from other folks though.
Didn't Rimac do this? Wasn't that their whole thing? The whole point of the supercars to like do their...
So they claimed.
Yeah.
The whole concept is certainly interesting, and I'm interested to see how it plays out. But here is yet another news story today about how an EV company is facing dodginess. The only non-story of this was BMW M center lock wheels. Even the ZR1 story was pro non-EV.
Hell yeah.
What world are we living in?
The world where some of the realities of what is actual demand have come into play again.
Yeah, it is interesting when you pull away incentives and when a certain portion of the population already gets these cars, and when they get so expensive, 75 grand for a Charger.
Price is a real concern.
You start to wonder about, like, does this have real legs?
One of the news stories that we didn't talk in depth about last week was manufacturers are starting to come out and have committed to some cheaper cars. For some of them, that's just decontenting some existing products. For others, it's all new lines. The Kia K4 was the best-selling Kia in Q4 of 2024. That's their cheapest model. It's hard to sell however much a Lucid Gravity will cost. It's hard to sell a $75,000
especially in a world with 6% interest rates, especially when people see the depreciation that these cars have. And so that results in people wanting to lease them, which results in enormous incentives from the manufacturer that comes back to them.
Yep.
It is interesting. It certainly is interesting. I do wonder if there were some EVs that were priced at a more reasonable number.
It's hard to get the price down, though. I mean, Chevy, to their credit, has done the best job of this.
Yeah.
The only really affordable ones, the most affordable one is the Equinox EV.
And initially the Bolt and the Volt.
Right. And it's like, it's hard to get the price point to there.
It is.
Without a lot of scale, without a lot of investment.
And to really make money, which is honestly why Tesla's so successful. The Model 3 is a tremendously good performer at a fairly reasonable price point. Never quite where they said it would be, but like when you look at it, and especially when you consider lease rates and what it offers, that is like a really good combination of everything, and it has been rewarded with massive sales. $120,000 minivan, tough sell. Ask Mercedes about the R63 AMG.
Or ask Mercedes about any EV.
Yeah. I think for me, this is an analogy that I know you will roll your eyes at, but this reminds me a lot of the Swiss quartz crisis, the watch crisis in the 1980s.
Yep.
You're rolling my head too, but that's where watches switched from mechanical to battery-powered watches. They were more precise, they were cheaper to make, but they're still charging a ludicrous amount of money for them. And I think something like in the mid-80s, 75%, I think, of all watches produced were quartz. But that's not what the customers wanted in the end. They wanted that mechanical thing because that's what they attached to, that craftsmanship and blah, blah, blah. It's different.
It is an interesting concept, though, in the sense that
it went back.
We have something better in some ways that is cheaper, more reliable, et cetera, but the customer's used to a certain thing. It's not necessarily
what they want. Exactly.
I will say, I question sometimes the EV pricing. I've been in a bunch of these Chinese cars now. For some reason, I've been reviewing all these Chinese cars. I have no idea. They show up here.
They're great.
I reviewed a couple of weeks ago the Fengcheng Bao 5. I'm sure you're...
I am, which is not an EV.
True. And it was well priced. No, but it was mostly an EV. It had a 1.5 liter gas engine, but then it had like 9,000 electric horsepower. I had the SU7. You look at the pricing of some of these EVs, and it's absolutely these cars in China, and it's unbelievable. Meanwhile, stuff here hasn't gotten to that level. If they were able to make them cheaper, it would be interesting. And shouldn't they be? There are way fewer components. Isn't that what they always are telling us?
The batteries are still expensive. And also, I will say, part of it's also what American consumers are requiring right now. Lucid CEO has also said that the future really is electric cars that have like 180 miles of range, because you can bring the price way down if your capacity goes down. And fundamentally, people don't actually need that much range for their daily driver. But especially in the US, people want that much range.
It is an interesting concept. In China, they never had these cars with these massive ranges and quick fill-ups, right? Because the gas-powered cars weren't common in China.
Travel less.
You travel less, but also like it just never got ingrained in the consumer's mindset. Like every day in China, new people are buying cars who've never bought them before, or they replacing an electric car with an electric car.
Yep.
Here, the feeling is you have to be able to drive 1,000 miles in a single day, and no one has ever done that except me,
right?
and truckers.
I think,
even then, I think it's illegal.
To your point, if they're able to increase the speed of charging and only have 180 mile range, that makes sense. That would be doable. I think.
I don't even think they need to increase the speed of charging. I think they just need to educate people. When was the last time you drove 180 miles in a day? Seriously,
all the time.
All the time? He's the problem.
No,
exactly.
this past weekend I drove. It was like I drove 90 miles in a day, and then on Saturday, and then Sunday.
So you want to charge overnight?
Then you plug it in. That's the thing. Consumers need to be educated more about EVs. People think it won't fit in their lifestyle. In large part, it actually would, and people don't really understand that.
But this is America. We want freedom.
We want freedom.
To go whenever the heck we want.
I think that's a component of it. I totally agree with that. I think it's why people buy Land Rovers, right? No one has ever actually taken a Range Rover off-road, but the idea that you have this ability.
Oh yeah, that's why the Rolex Submariner sells so well. You can go dive. You're never going to take that thing down to 4,000.
Well, I've taken my Submariner.
No, Doug, to be clear, it's not a submarine. It's different.
Right. Okay, next we move on to the Talk Cars segment where we talk about cars. Ooh. I want to talk about the most important car of the day, which is the CLK on the site. Can you pull it up? Mm-hmm. I can't explain to you how much, as a child, growing up in Denver, a little boy, I wanted an 03 to 05 CLK 55 coupe.
Yeah, you can please try to explain.
Should I buy this car? I want this car so bad. This is a one-owner California car. Silver is the only color you want.
Yeah, silver.
Pillarless. I love the design of this car so much. And everybody's like, oh, the Black Series. Yeah. Okay, this is like a $9,000 car. It had the greatest motor AMG ever did, the NA 54 V8. I want this car.
Who built this one?
I can't explain to you how much I want an 03 to 05 CLK55 with the full-size screen in the dash, which this one has. It's an aftermarket screen, but I'll accept it.
Man, look at those buttons on that steering.
Can I say one thing about this? I support you in your endeavors.
Go back to the exterior shots because it's beautiful.
But I want to say something about this because
Go to the side.
I scheduled the cars that are going live today. And right before this car went live, you know what went live? A Ferrari 550.
You know what I love about this car?
And you are not seized on the Rosa Corsa
everybody likes the
550,
550.
which looks beautiful at 11,000 miles.
You know what's cool
Instead,
about
you're
this
seized
car?
on the CLK55.
That's right. Fantastic powertrain, beautiful. And you know what I really love? Subtle. Look how subtle this is. There is not a person on the planet who knows that this is a fast car. And then you just put the hammer down.
That's so true.
This is a one owner. The only way you could tell, it had the flared rockers. Those wheels were even offered on the AMG package CLK 500 or 550 or whatever.
The 350 may have had them.
This is perfect. This car is perfect. I want this car so
beautiful car.
much.
I'd go halvesies.
You'd go halvesies?
No, you wouldn't. No, don't do that.
86,000 miles is pretty reasonable too for that powertrain. Dude, I'm telling you, I want this car.
362 horsepower, 376 foot-pounds of torque.
I want this car so much.
You're not buying cars.
It's a great looking car. CLK is a great car.
I'm not buying cars. I wish I was, because this is kind of like, this would be like my youth finally coming to roost. When I used to lie on internet forums as a 14-year-old boy, I claimed to have one of these. Yeah. And everybody's like, that's weird.
That weird flex
special.
right?
Oh, but look at that.
I mean, but you have said, I mean, the clothes of the boy don't fit the clothes.
That's
the man should not
exactly
wear
right.
the clothes when
That's
he
why
was
I'm
a
not
boy.
going to do it, but I really want it. Go back to the exterior.
It is.
Whoever buys this car, can you bring it to the office
So I can stare at it for a day.
It's so beautiful. That was the thing about this. Is people look at it now and they're like, oh, it's just an old Mercedes. This was a time when you didn't need to do stuff to be cool. Like now, all these companies would put in gold brake calipers and center lock wheels, yes, and flashy little canards. This thing just did the job.
Can you go to 550 now just so we can get a little palate cleanser? We don't have to talk about it. I just want to see it.
I can't believe you're saying that, but I do agree with you. This is the Italian. This is the Ferrari that we've decided you and I agree.
Go to one of the side profile shots.
Even just the front.
No, go to the side profile. All right, let's move on to the next story.
The CLK is more beautiful.
Leave that there.
The CLK is more beautiful. This is a beautiful car, and the CLK is even more beautiful.
That is a bold take.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Everybody says the Black Series is beautiful. What does the Black Series have? Wheels and some flared fenders.
It's not beautiful.
Thing.
It's striking. It's different.
Go back to the car. It is beautiful. It's just a simple design, pillarless.
The pillarless design is gorgeous. I will agree.
This car, this would be the perfect daily driver. If I was a divorced dad,
you would have a 550.
No, look at this. This car's fussy. Look how unfussy. Look, seriously, compare the two. Look how unfussy this is. Simple, clean, pillarless, no little wrinkles. The wheels are just simple 5-spoke. Go back to the 550.
Okay, the wheels are a lot. I'll agree.
Not original to the car.
These are the most beautiful wheels. These are the most beautiful cars made in 03. These two cars. Most beautiful cars made in 03. But the CLK edges it a little.
575 was made in 03, not the 550, but...
You're missing my point.
Yeah, but I don't...
Nobody knows.
They're not. Doug and I know the differences.
I don't look even close.
But anyway, I mean...
I want this CLK so bad.
I appreciate the subtlety of this car. I appreciate it, generally.
You know how people want like an E-Type that is modernized? I want this, but modernized. Like with Distronic and like a slightly nicer interior, and like the door handles that are as smooth as mine.
Was it available with Distronic? Because it may have been.
I don't think so. I mean, this is early days, man. This is 03.
The S classes at the time were available.
The CLKs weren't. They were for drivers.
They were for those.
They were for real drivers.
Yep, driving up and down the highway, it's like a toner salesman.
That's why I like it. You think they're for toner salesmen, but
no, I like it.
No, everybody thinks that about these cars. They blend in, but when you get behind the wheel and you put that hammer down, you are in the next county by dinner time.
It's not that powerful. It's like okay.
It's 362 horsepower. I guarantee you, if I had this car, I race your M5, I win.
No, that's not true.
Let's roll them. So whoever buys this car, bring it to the office. San Diego, 92 something or other. I don't know exactly, but bring it here.
For sure, I'll wipe you away. But it is a very cool car.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
Filippo, you got anything?
Yeah, I want to talk about Coinbase for a second.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, we sold a pickup truck in partnership with Coinbase, and the truck got picked up yesterday.
A man came and got it.
A man and his friend came and got it. And they paid in USDC as was prescribed in the auction.
Yeah.
And I knew how it would work. I knew it would be seamless. And it was actually like better than I expected. He hadn't paid. Yeah, he came to the office. We signed over the bill of sale, signed the title, and then he scanned a QR code on my phone from my Coinbase app. And then a minute later, I had $17,000 or USDC in our Coinbase account. And it was truly the simplest experience I've ever had. Meanwhile, one of our producers bought a car last weekend, and he flew with cash across the country to do this. Well, and it's like, here's a better way.
Two things. One, he did do that. I've never seen it's the
and
craziest thing I've ever seen.
And the guy still didn't give him the title.
He was sitting on the... You're kidding.
He doesn't have the title. He doesn't have the title.
He was sitting on the plane, and he was like, I'm going to buy this car. It's so excited. And the guy called him, and I was like, I don't know if I want to sell it. He's sitting on the plane to go there. It was the crazy...
Anyway. It makes fun of our producer time, but he had to like go to the bank and do all this. And here's like a way better way.
I actually
he doesn't have the title because the seller wanted the check to clear.
Right. I have to point out, I was here while Filippo handled this. Yeah. I helped put the license plates.
He did.
Pain in the ass on this car.
Why'd you take them off?
They had
new plates.
Why?
Because California. I don't know.
California plates stay with the car. Why didn't you leave them on? These are probably 25-year-old plates.
We received new plates from the DMV. I wasn't part of the...
I followed orders very hard because it has the nut on it. It was like the Defender situation. Very hard. But it was true that within it was over in 15 minutes. It was so fast that when the guy left, he forgot his backpack, had to come back and get it. Like, that's how quick
it is interesting because that's one of people's big complaints about the car buying process. I'm, of course, a little skeptical of crypto and all that, but I will say this does take some interesting friction out of the process because there is always that level of friction. Like when Nick is buying sketchy cars, almost exclusively when Nick is buying sketchy cars, the friction point is he doesn't want to pay, and the guy doesn't want to release the title of the car until he pays, but you have this sketchy little moment here, and if you could do it all kind of at once, it changes everything.
So quick that it made life legitimately way easier.
Right.
I didn't have to wait for anything, and it was just there.
Well, the guy's got his truck. Where does he live? He's local?
Yeah, he lives in the San Diego area, and he is rightfully very excited. Also, the truck looks so good.
It's so cool.
I moved it to, I brought it outside for him, and it just
Marty
such a good
McFly.
truck.
Yep.
Such a good truck.
He'd asked us if we'd redone the interior. It's like, no, we just cleaned it. It's just an honest truck.
I drove the truck. It was hard to believe because it had a lot of miles. But back in this era, it's hard to explain now, but back in this era, Toyota's focus was on just really durable, simple parts, but durable ones. Like this truck doesn't have a tack. Like it does, even though it's a manual. Like it doesn't have stuff that you would want, but like it has, it runs. Like it
2 gauges, 3 gauges.
Yeah, right.
Fuel, temp.
But tack would be nice for a manual, but it doesn't have that. But that wasn't Toyota's focus, wasn't giving you nice stuff like a tack. It was just like, we want to make the small amount of stuff we do provide really last. And it did. It
does.
It was amazing how this truck had held up after this many miles. It's further proof also that if you have your car in California and you take care of it mechanically, it can run for as long as you're willing to continue to operate it. It will just keep going. The elements will not consume the vehicle.
So true. For instance, if you look underneath it, it was still like, I mean, for a California truck, look at that. I mean, it was still pretty
Now, this
crazy.
was in the pre-rust era for Toyota. Toyota then had an issue where the truck could have been hermetically sealed and still the bed would slip from the frame.
They replaced the frame.
They replaced a lot of frames. Under recall for like 20-year-old products.
Yeah, that's a tough recall.
Frames. That is a tough recall because you have techs in New Hampshire who have to pull the body off a Sequoia and then like take rusted parts from under and put a new frame. I mean,
man, hope they get tetanus shots.
Right. Okay, so that was the Coinbase thing. It went well. The truck is gone. Kennan, give us your Talk Cars segment. It was Filippo related.
Yes, I have a Filippo related thing. So Filippo and I, for those who don't know, work together. Filippo helps run this company. He's our director of operations. Is that your official title?
Doesn't matter.
Something like that. And I'm the managing editor. So, and I run the team of auction specialists that create all the listings. And Filippo and I were in a meeting, and somebody brought it up. So it's like, guess what car Kennan is in? At the office, when we have meetings, we sit in the back of all these cars.
Part of life at Carson Bids.
And everybody said, oh, it's an M5. But we have two. We have the Challenge M5, we have my M5. And I said, which one is it? And Filippo said, I know which one it is.
Sure did.
And I looked at him and I was like, Filippo
How'd you know?
There were two giveaways. One is you have a rear dash cam.
I do. Yes,
which is one. The second is that I know for a fact that our Challenge one has a full leather interior.
That's right.
Yours is an option, yours does not have. Which is unfortunate.
It's a benefit.
But the full leather interior ones don't have the rear sunshades.
That's right.
In the doors. And yours, which does not have full leather, does. And you had the rear sunshade extended.
Yes, that's correct.
I tried to explain to my wife why I was proud of this, and she did not understand.
I once told him this, and he retained it. I had told it, and he said, oh, that's interesting. I assumed, okay. Well, but no, Filippo then brought it up months later. And of course, me being me, I was ecstatic. And so I realized something, Filippo.
Yes.
I vow to you that I will learn some facts about normal cars, about normal trim levels. You can pick whatever it is that you want.
Really?
But in general, I'm going to internalize the stuff that you have to say about normal cars because I realize that is a huge blind spot in my automotive knowledge base.
Okay.
I'm honored.
And I'm going to retain that information. I will try to bring it up in a meeting whenever I can.
I'm honored.
So you will be my teacher, and I your student.
I vow to support this.
Okay, moving on to our next segment, the market report. Now, as always, the market report is brought to you by Cars and Bids and or the Cars and Bids app, which you can access by going to the App Store and downloading it.
That's all. It's all correct,
folks. It only took me 6 months, but I got it.
I'm so proud of you.
You go to the App Store. I have it on my cellular telephone.
Yeah, it's great. There's a lot of exciting stuff in it.
I got a lot of weird apps recently too.
Is that so?
What is this?
Yeah, no, I get some weird stuff on here now because I've had to do stuff lately.
How unfortunate.
I got the American Airlines app.
Wow, you had to fly very weird.
I hate the airline apps. State Farm. Why do I have the State Farm app? Get out of here.
Shout out to the United app. It's actually very good.
Okay. I want to talk market report.
Somebody that wants some miles.
Oh, but our app is great. Not like the State Farm app, which may or may not be great. I don't think I used it. Okay, I want to talk market report, and I want to start with the Ford GT. You know about the Ford GT?
I am familiar.
I'm going to make a
new one, the old one, or the old one?
I'm going to make up. There's no old one.
Well, there is, but it wasn't called the GT.
That's kind of the thing. You know, if I called his car the M,
no, he'd be so pissed.
5 competition, he'd be upset. Okay, so I'm going to make a proclamation. Here's a proclamation for you. And I'm stating this on February 12th, but this goes live on 14th, Valentine's Day. That's how we'll remember it. I said it on Valentine's Day, 25. The old Ford GT within 3 years will be selling for more than the new Ford GT. So I'm talking about the manual transmission, this Ford GT. Yep, set a calendar.
I'm putting it in my calendar right now.
This Ford GT will be selling for more than the new one that's built in Canada.
The nicest versions of this one will be selling for more than the worst versions of the new one.
I'll even go further.
I need specifics.
The nicest versions of this one, the 05, will be selling for more than an average to okay version of the new one. The market is already clearly showing this. Nicest versions of this car are now in the 600 to 700 plus range.
What?
They're selling all the time.
For what, Heritages?
No, even colors are selling for over 600 now. The new Ford GT is now down into the low 8s with a little bit of miles. Yeah, special one with no miles, whatever, is maybe still $1 million, maybe. I am marking this date. Kennan is...
I'm typing it out. I'm writing it all down.
He's taking 35 minutes, but he's adding it to his calendar. This date, I am saying that within 3 years...
2028.
The old Ford GTs will be selling for more than the new Ford GTs.
Based on the
By the way, they made 3 times as many.
Based on the trajectory, you're so right.
This is podcast good 46. What is this?
47.
47. Okay, writing that down.
So podcast number 200, I think.
That's not...
Yeah,
fine.
Give or take.
Close enough.
By podcast 200, the old Ford GTs will be eclipsing the new Ford GTs. Now, when the new Ford GT came out, people were like, "Oh my God, this is a different car. This is a totally different, crazy thing. Amazing! They've changed everything." The market doesn't want it.
No, but
the market wants this guy.
Isn't surprising. This is a V8 with a manual and it's raw, and the new one is very raw. It's a race car, but it's not.
But they made
drivable.
4,100 of these.
Yeah,
and the new one they only made like
4,100,
1,200. They made 4,038 of these. They made like 1,250 new ones. They're literally 4 times as many. And I am still making this prediction.
If you asked me what car for 350 grand, I would buy.
Yeah,
it'd be a Ford GT.
Really?
I think so.
Did you hear that?
I'm stunned to have heard of
I
that.
think so because it's.
You both have invitations for this event.
It is actually one of the There's not that many cars in that price point, frankly, that are that appealing. But this is such a special car. It's a standalone piece of history in a lot of ways. It's not like the best version of a 911. It's something separate.
It's its own car,
and that makes it really special. But it's going to be a shame when when this is 600.
Well, I'll tell you, it ain't far off. Nice ones, even mild ones, are starting to sell for.
What do you think yours is worth? Yours is 35,000 miles?
I wouldn't sell mine today. I mean, I'm not interested in selling mine. If I was interested in selling mine, I think I could probably get between 350 and 375. You just said for 350. I don't think they're out there for 350 anymore.
Yours is exceptionally high miles.
Mine is exceptionally high mileage, but it's a special color. I think that a red car with my miles is maybe a 350 car, but you won't find one. It's much easier to find a car with 2,000 miles or 800 miles than to find one with high miles.
Man, what a shame.
These cars, 400 is the new baseline for like a car with any sort sort of miles. A lower mileage one is like a 450 car, and really nice ones are easily 600. Heritages are about to crest 7.
Here's the
I hope.
Sorry, go ahead, please.
I hope that with their value appreciation and enthusiast appreciation for these cars, that Ford then starts supporting them more. Because one of the issues you've run into is like, they don't do the best job supporting these cars and supplying parts for owners. The things are hard to get for these. Or getting harder to get.
But I have 3 of these.
They're just
Doug is pointing to the lower splitter on the front of his car.
Front splitters. And I have a whole new set of brake rotors.
Haven't you publicly said
that
actually they're still available?
The splitters are still available and still cheap. Yeah. I bought 3 splitters for like $300, like when I bought the car 7 years ago, thinking I was a god. And actually, they cost the same now. And it might have probably been damaged sitting in my basement.
So the gauges are a problem. Taillights are an issue.
Gauges are a problem, but not hard to find.
Okay, but taillights are a problem. Was it something else?
I don't know. I've never had an issue with mine. My reverse light went out, but we found out that it was the same bulb from a Tacoma, and so I just...
reliable component.
The point is that these cars are showing what the market prefers. The new Ford GT has proven to be tremendously complicated. Yeah. The dealers are already refusing to work on it or simply don't demonstrate the technical know-how. They're obviously way more like focused, frenetic, like hardcore vehicles, which I think most people don't really want for cars they drive around.
No, you can't drive this around.
You can't. And the old one just has the look, the V8, the manual. It has what you want.
This is cool, I will say.
It's incredibly
cool. I remember your video where you went out and had
the new one is incredibly cool. I can't imagine these ever drop down to 500 stuff.
No.
But the old one, I can imagine will be in the 500 to 800 range for a long time. And I bet you'll at some point be able to choose between new and old.
Will values eclipse your Countach? Will there be a...
I can't believe it. I'm sitting here watching Ford GT values climb. I'm thinking, folks, you need to get a Countach. God, that one is just...
Or if you can, both.
Yep.
We can both.
Okay, Filippo, you got a market report for us?
Yeah, can we talk about Volvo V60, please? Look, I am who I am.
I'm not rolling my eyes at him. I'm here to learn.
All right. Last week we sold a Volvo V60 T8 Polestar engineered extended range.
Yeah.
Amazing pictures.
Now, that's a really long name.
Yeah.
But here's what it is. It's a wagon from Volvo.
Yeah.
It's practical. It's great. It also has a plug-in hybrid and is like the most powerful version of that. Yeah. And it has Olin dampers.
Where is this, Denver?
Yeah, they like doing Olin dampers.
Yeah, they do. I wasn't going to say it correctly. I wasn't going to try. But here's a car that there's a window sticker in the dock section. I don't remember offhand. Okay, this was a $70,000 car.
70 car.
Right?
In 22.
In 22. They've driven it 30,000 miles, something like that? Mm-hmm. 37,000 miles.
Almost 40.
And it's over 54. At normal Volvo depreciation, it's 3 times that amount.
Yeah, a 22 XC60 is like a 19 car.
So I'm stunned by how well this has retained value. Now, they didn't sell a lot of
they're hard
T8s.
To find.
And especially the nice versions of T8s, which have the Polestar engineering. They don't all have that.
Yep.
This is the one you want if you want a V60. I'm not surprised somebody paid up for it, but man, did they pay up for it.
Well, it's a special car. When are you going to find another one? If you're looking for one of these, it's one of those things. It's like me looking for the GLS with the off-road package.
It's like in the wagon community, you win. I think you win more than if you had like an E63 AMG.
I was driving the Ford GT home from dinner the other night, and one of these got up next to me and was like trying to... Yeah, it was a T8. It had all these badges. I admit, I'm a little lost by some of the top-end versions of this car.
Yeah, they got a little confusing.
They got a little confusing, but it was this. It was a V60 with the Polestar badge.
The only other one in the country, probably.
It was pretty cool, and he was like going fast next to me, and I wasn't racing a Volvo station wagon, but you know.
That's such a car.
I mean, I'm going to...
Right. It's a ridiculous situation.
Plus, they would have won. No, it's only 455 horsepower.
Anyway.
But it's so cool, and I'm glad that the market is continuing to appreciate these in a meaningful way.
The market does appreciate these V60s. I get a lot of people who come up to me on the street and I'm like, I have a V60.
Really?
Yeah, I legitimately, whether it's one of these or just a regular one, but it's certainly an enthusiast car in the sense that it is a smaller wagon. Remember, the competition for this car, none of them were sold here.
Nope.
The C-Class wagon was gone. The 3 Series wagon was gone.
And only ever the last generation was just a
328. The A4 was all-road only and small motor only.
Still has it.
You had to be like a serious enthusiast to pursue the high-performance Volvo V60.
Plus, this, for what it's worth, I think the seller did themselves a huge favor with the photos, which look great, and selling with a ski box and a tow hitch.
Was the ski box included in the sale?
Yeah. Probably made a real difference because the look is great.
It just looks
I'm jealous of this person.
You're jealous of the buyer.
I'm jealous of the buyer and of the seller because he owned it for a few years.
He did okay.
I want this.
Well, you could. It sounds like this guy didn't lose much money. So, like, you know.
You can't find any for sale.
Not a cost of ownership
You truly can't.
He's also, it's too small.
Can I European delivery this? You can.
They still sell this?
I think so. Maybe this last year.
They still sell this new? The problem with Volvo Euro delivery is it starts in Sweden at the end of the day.
That sounds awesome.
You got to get us.
It's not awesome. It takes like a day to get anywhere you want to be. No offense to the Swedes watching, but if you're going to Europe on vacation,
it is surprising.
Gothenburg isn't your top choice. Denmark would be nice.
It is surprising how little they lost in this.
Even then.
How little what?
How little money they lost.
Yeah. It is surprising.
That becomes interesting.
You present it well. It's a special car. It's a rare car. Nonetheless, they paid $69. They probably didn't pay $69 too, honestly. Okay, Kennan, give us your market report.
Yes. Now, we had a very special car sell on the site recently. One of my all-time favorite cars. This Aston Martin DBS, but critically, had a 6-speed manual transmission. They produced these cars with 6 speeds, but they didn't make all that many of them. They made a lot more of these than its competitor, the 599. They made a handful with 6-speed manual transmissions. These are substantially more common. But this car was a one-owner car. Filippo and I talked about it on the Live Now segment of on the other channel, on the Cars and Biz channel. And it sold for strong money. 114 grand feels like right for this car. But it had miles. 53,300 miles.
No way.
These cars
Lots of miles for one of these, yeah.
Wow. So this thing had miles and still brought 114, which is especially impressive because if you look up DB9s, which ultimately had the same powertrain and basically the same look.
Yeah, similar look, we'll say, but yes, but...
So that, I mean, an 09 DB9 is a 42 car. It's admittedly with an automatic. I imagine a manual would be more, but the point is, the DBS...
Not as much as you'd think, actually.
Do we have sticks on here? The point is...
I've seen some sell in other places for around in the 30s.
The point is, like, the DBS, without that many changes, is a really... You know what the DBS is? The Challenge Stradale of the DB9.
That's exactly what it is. Are you going to rail against it and say you hate it?
No, I've never driven one. I've always wanted to. I wish we had sent this one down.
You've never driven?
We should have sent this one down. It was like an Oxnard, wasn't it?
It was in Hollywood, but yeah, I know. But yeah, I have driven a manual. I've driven 2 actually. The only DBSs I've ever driven were manual.
I mean, it's so cool.
It's not. It is an incredibly light clutch, and the bite point for whatever, even when the clutch is brand new, is actually surprisingly high. So it's not as like great as you think, but who cares? Like I told Filippo, your heel-toe downshift in a
V12, and it had just enough subtle changes that like those who know. And to us, nobody else really matters. Like, if someone else sees me and thinks it's a DB9, that just means they're not that much of a car. They screw up.
You know what?
And your shifter looks like a Power Ranger.
It's
foot.
cool. It's cool. It's so cool.
Such a cool car.
The shifter is really cool.
Truly such a cool car.
It is the Challenge Stradale. It's like the upgrades were subtle but significant. It wasn't just cosmetic stuff. It wasn't just a manual transmission. They gave it more power, better suspension, better wheels, the flared rockers, the manual, the wheel, the interiors. There's like little and the clear tails.
Well, as Jeremy Clarkson described it, when it was new, it's like a DB9S. Every single part of the car is just a little bit better, and that totality of adding all that up, that's what makes it a better car.
One owner car for 16 years with the manual here in LA.
114.
114. That is a cool car, and I don't know if it's a buy or not at 114. I don't see him losing value. I swear these things were 100 grand 10 years ago.
No, and I think it's just such a good experience. I mean,
get one of these.
Cool. I would love.
What are you going to get? One of these or an Acura?
A DB9.
Likely not
Acura. In the 30s. Interesting.
Oh, no, but again, he's a price point.
I am who I am.
Okay, we're going to move on to the questions. Now remember, you too can ask us questions. You go to carsandbids.com, you click on the community tab, and then there's going to be a post there that says, this is where you ask your questions, and then you can ask your questions there. Did that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, questions. First question from Toyota Suit Bra. Question for all. Do you pay attention to the Doug is the type of guy comments? If so, are there any that stood out to you or especially funny? For a long time I did, but I don't really anymore, and I don't really remember a lot of them anymore.
Me neither. There's a lot.
There's a lot. It got like, I thought they were fun. I'm not trying to like say, I don't listen to that. Screw those people. Like, I'm not one of them. I thought there was a good period of time where they were funny, but it was like 3-4 years.
Every once in a while, a friend or somebody will like be watching an old video and like message me a screenshot of a comment, and there's some great ones.
There were some great ones, but you know, the meme, I don't know, the meme's not as strong as it used to be. Plus, there should be Filippo's the type of guy comments, because damn. Next question.
There are Filippo's the type of guy comments. I see him.
I don't know the type of guy.
Never with Filippo spelled correctly, by the way.
Or Kennan.
Kennan and Filippo, no one's ever spelled them correctly.
Kennan.
I'm not spelling them.
There's too many I's and L's and P's. Honestly, sometimes I have trouble. Sometimes I have to copy and paste it off some document.
Philly, F-I-L.
Sometimes I have to sign
FILIPO.
into our pay stub system and copy and paste it off there, just off his social security information,
Sure.
because that's the only way I know for sure.
Yeah.
Or you just type in, POW.
Next, PAO is how I say it. Next question from Alec Metz 2011. Why do you guys sometimes choose not to answer questions on here? Okay, let me tell you what happened. Back in the day, I used to say that we would answer the highest upvoted question no matter how stupid. And then you know what happened? Some of them were really stupid. No, what I've decided, here's what happened. I have noticed that when we post the question, this launches every Friday morning, or afternoon, I don't know when it launches, to be honest. And when we post the questions, I've noticed that there are some people who instantly post a question, and then that gets upvotes, and then that question is like the top upvoted question. And sometimes that question is not very well thought and is often the same person asking the questions every week and every week. And so I've decided to, instead of focusing on people who hurry to ask their questions right away, to try to take questions that are more interesting and more exciting some of the time. Not this week, though. I'm answering the top upvoted this week.
I will also say some of the questions are sometimes duplicative, which I'm sure is not intentional, but if we've answered it in a recent podcast,
that's also true. We've done 47 of these. I have a general good knowledge. We've been asked the question a million times, what car are you excited to import this year?
What car would you buy for 45 grand?
I move on from a lot of those questions. But generally, I try to answer all of the questions at the top, with exceptions only. I never will deflect a controversial question. Throw me some controversy, folks. I love it. I eat it up. However, if they're boring questions...
It's been a while since you chewed on the microphone.
Okay.
What do people listening at home without the video think happened there?
Next question from Tengle92. This is actually a decent question. Assuming Kennan pulls the trigger on a Cayenne, that would mean that between the three of you, there are 10 vehicles, half of which are German. That's not entirely true, is it?
Close.
I have 6 cars, you have 3 cars, so he has 2, so that's 11.
2/3 of my cars are German.
But a lot of German. The point is a lot of German.
All of his cars are German. Half of your cars are German.
So he says, in a hypothetical situation where all German vehicles were wiped from the planet, how would you replace your beloved vehicles with the closest American, Italian, and Japanese equivalent?
With joy.
Yeah, I would actually love it, to be perfectly honest. First off, I get an XJ220. Boom!
To be honest with you, it's like there's some. CT5V Blackwing is pretty appealing. Like there are cars that I like that are not just German. Germans do make wonderful cars. Like that's what they do as a nation. 550 Maranello would be a really lovely car.
Right. The thing that annoys
anytime Italian word comes up, Filippo says it in Italian.
The things that annoy me about the Germans is what makes them good manufacturers of cars.
That's because they're pedantic, focused, no humor, generally speaking.
Good engineering rules. I'll never forget. This is a little German story for you. One time, here in the United States, if you walk through a supermarket parking lot, you can generally assume that cars will stop for you. Like the pedestrian is God.
You got your cart with your eggs that you spent a fortune on.
People are like, oh, I'm going to stop. Like, no matter what, people are walking haphazard ways in every supermarket parking lot, and cars are like 8,000 feet from them. I remember one time I was in Germany with some of my Porsche colleagues, and I was walking through a parking lot, and I kind of walked in front of a car, and they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, they like made it clear that the machine has the right, in Germany, the machine has the right of way.
Yes, you respect the car. What you're doing, you wait your turn. You are very small, it is very big. You cannot wait.
That's true in Italy too, but for very different reasons.
Right, in Italy you can't.
The driver will run you over, but that's them.
God made man, but man made this.
Anyway, the point is, I would have actually no problem with it. I love my Ford GT. I love my Countach. The only car that it would be annoying to replace would be the Courier GT.
No.
What? Oh, my E-Class station wagon?
Yeah,
I'd get a V60 Polestar.
But hold on a second. You said the Ford GT is the quote unquote poor man's Carrera GT.
Yeah.
It delivers as close to an experience from another manufacturer. You would say, so that would be the car you'd replace it with if you couldn't have a German car.
Well, I'd already have the Ford GT. Honestly, if the Courier GT went, I'd probably just take the cash and hang out for a while. Brag about it to Filippo.
But then you couldn't get a 993 turbo? Right?
No, I'd get an XJ220. I would get an XJ220.
Wow. Don Law. Send it to Don Law.
And you know what would happen? Here's what would happen. I'm driving my XJ220, and I get up at a stoplight next to an EB110, and I'd say, 110, 220.
You made this point with my E39, you said, I just realized something. E39, F40.
F40. You got E39?
I got
F40.
F40.
Better in every way. One better.
Well, yeah, obviously it's better.
Okay, next question. Some guy from Seattle. We're going to do maybe 2 to 3 more. Some guy from Seattle. Question for all. What is the best weekend car for around $15,000, give or take $2,000 to $3,000? Pull up some sales, Kennan.
There's a clearer answer.
You Boxster 96 Boxster. No. NA Miata. NB
Miata.
ND. You can get NDs for 15.
You can get an ND for 15.
We've had this discussion before, and I still don't think it's true.
18, 27.
Go to lowest priced NDs.
All right.
Oh, you don't want to know where that goes.
There's 16.
13.5.
There's 16. You
I remember
can-
this one.
We sold
This
one
one was total.
recently for 15.
This one was totaled.
I do remember that car.
Filippo, you can't get these cars.
December 3rd, we sold one for 16.
For 16, but it's
Was that
how many
15?
miles are on this car?
Reasonable number.
29.8. Let's see. Good Carfax,
It
but
just early
definitely
ones have gotten
accidents.
cheap.
You
Yeah,
wouldn't
there
get a
was an accident.
986 over an NA or an ND?
Not a chance.
Really? But there's so much mid-engine, dude. What about an MR2? What does an SW20 go for? What do you, 12.9, this one, that's
Turbo, yeah,
Japanese.
12.5.
But that's Japanese, that's right-hand drive.
Yeah,
but
but
that,
you can still get turbos.
but I want to shift with my right hand. I'm right-hand
There you
dominant.
go.
This one's not.
That's a
92
turbo?
MR2
How many
turbo.
miles are on
No,
this?
I would rather have
Probably
it.
a lot. TMU, but 86,008.
TMU is my favorite type of miles because it could be 10,000.
Would you
It's really not known. It could be.
a 996 cab with a tip is 15?
Yeah, this one 52.
Yeah, a 996 cab with a tip. I would rather have this car 5 million times over than a tip. Dude, can I buy that? Go back to that. Can I just have this? When did we sell this?
In 2021.
21,
time ago.
13.7. I mean, you probably can't buy this car for 13.7 anymore.
No,
Man, that is a
they've
cool
gone up a
little
bit
car.
since.
I love
Where
the
is this
SW20.
park that this car is at? Where is this car? Oh, in Wisconsin.
Wausau.
It was California owned, but it's in Wisconsin. I was like, that doesn't look like.
I assume
my answer
S2000s aren't
remains,
that cheap. anymore.
You can find some really high mile ones at that point.
Could I get an MR2? Oh yeah. What about an
S2000 is
S2000?
the answer. This one seems like pretty reasonable.
ND2.
14.2.
Oh, no, it's a weekend car? Yeah.
207.
ND2? Is that your plug-in?
ND1.
ND2.
But with actually, and ND2s aren't cheap enough yet.
All right.
Is he talking about
rethink
Miata?
that.
AP.
No, I was saying that I
Still
would
talking
choose a
Miatas.
Miata.
You'd
still
rather
on
have
it.
an ND than an S2000?
No, you're right.
No,
Yeah.
you wouldn't. That shift.
But
But
it's
would
like
you
a
rather
really
have an
fine line.
S2000 than an SW20 turbo?
Yes.
Really? SW20 turbo is a powerful car.
I'm not.
A mid-engine is important to me. I've spent a lot of time driving mid-engine cars, and the physics difference is significant.
Okay, why not a 987?
Yeah.
Dot
No,
one
I-
Cayman, which
yeah.
you can get at that.
I
price
don't
point.
think you can get a manual 987.1 at 50.
but it's hard.
Go down, just go down. No, go back. Oh yeah. That's actually
You can do it.
Yes, I
Boxers
selected
for
manual.
sure.
He's making fun of me.
They're
Boxers
not-
for sure.
Boxers for
Caymans
sure.
barely.
It's hard to find.
Yeah.
It's hard to find.
Like
These are mild
we
cars.
sold some really high mile ones,
Yeah,
or
this one.
problematic ones.
I don't need a
200,000.
Cayman. People are always like, Cayman. I'm living SoCal, man. I'm gonna take
I'd
a
be
Boxster
happy
all
with
day
a
long.
little Boxster.
How many miles are on this?
This one,
But this is
105.
That's actually,
clear.
yeah, but the base, dude, you get a base Boxster for 13
Yep.
and you beat on it. You beat on it. That's a driver.
That is a driver.
I don't know what the answer is, but it's one of those.
So yeah, so SW2000, SW20,
ND Miata.
987.
Any good at
or
Curas in the price
decent
range?
986. No,
Yeah, you can get a TL Type S, but it's not really a great
it's
weekend
not
car.
really a weekendy car. Yeah, but something like that, something along those lines.
Okay, two more. This one is really fast. I'm going to do it. You guys, if you disagree with me, you chime in, but I don't think you will. From TSX Enthusiast, keep, sell, destroy. Cadillac CN, Chrysler ME412, Volkswagen W12 Nardo. The answer is keep the CN, don't care what happens to the other two. All right. I never got into the ME412. Everybody else did. I
Yeah.
never really cared. Okay, I'm going to choose one more. Oh, here's a good one. You know what? I'm going to do three more.
Wow.
Sure,
Yeah.
do it.
Wow.
We're
Do
going
it.
to be quick.
Do it.
First one, which car sellers are the most out of touch with the value of their car when setting their reserve? I haven't done reserve setting in a long
That's a
time.
clear answer.
A lot of them. Who?
Modified Wrangler owners.
Oh, modded Jeep Wrangler owners are. It's
a good one.
They think that the mods they threw on double the value when actually they don't, especially in Florida. Okay, next
that
question.
was implied, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Old Biddy, another theoretical for you. You're forced to own only one car that was introduced in the year you were born. I'm bringing this up.
Easy.
I'm bringing this up because it's useful for me. Reliability's in play here. What car do you pick? F40.
F50.
Damn. By the way, this is supposed to be our only car.
Right. Done.
Yep. Next question.
Clutch is easy to use in that car.
I'm
Hard
sorry.
to service, but you know.
I'm looking at the list of cars.
Dude.
that
What
are
year were you born?
94. So the 355 was, but so was the RS2 Avant.
C-Class.
RS2 Avant.
C-Class.
RS2 Avant.
C-Class.
RS2 Avant.
I think C-Class for him.
RS2
C-Class
Avant.
for him.
So F40, F50, and then the
Subaru
original
Outback.
C-Class. No.
First gen.
He's
No
got-
way.
he's got-
Absolutely not. That didn't come out till at least 96, 97. The gen that it was based on wasn't even out until 95, the legacy gen.
First generation, 1994.
That did not come out in
Yeah,
94.
McLaren F1 was in production in 1995, wasn't it?
But it didn't come out.
Didn't
then.
come out. Oh, come out. Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Production.
F40, F50, original
1994
C-Class.
for the 1995 model year for the Outback.
For the legacy.
Outback.
He's the C-Class. Okay, final question from Akershaw. Any idea where your 360 went? Seems like an important car in the trajectory of your career. Would you ever try to get it back? I sold my 360 to a man, very nice man, in the robotics world. And seriously, and he was the CTO of a robotics company. He bought it, came in, he was living in Davis, California, near Sacramento, and he came in to Philly, where I was living at the time, flew all the way across the country, drove the car, bought the car. Car went to Davis. This was in 2014. And that year I went to Pebble Beach, and I saw the car at the Quail parking lot, 137880. And and that was the last time I saw the car, and I've never seen it again, and I don't really care about that. And the question is, would you ever try to get it back? Absolutely not. Anyway, goodbye, everyone. The 360,
It's not free. It was a part of your past, and you acknowledged it as an important car in your past. I don't think you'd want your bumper-to-bumper Range Rover back, or the Aston, or anything.
I don't care. I will say this. I don't care that much about my particular 360 much. I mean, it was actually, in the world of them, it was a pretty good car. It was Rosso Corsa Stick 04, which is kind of the car you want. I have increased my fondness for the 360 since in the ensuing years. I was pretty disappointed with that car. And over the years, I've kind of come to reframe how I view the 360, and I actually think it's a really fun car as long as you go into it not thinking that you're buying like the specialist supercar ever, which is what I thought. Like, I was like, I'm 22, I'm buying a Ferrari. This is the coolest thing in the world. You're 25.
Yeah, I was
25.
22.
And I was like, this is going to be the coolest thing ever. And it's just not. Like, no possession will ever kind of have that. But if you drive it for what it is, it's actually a pretty fun car. That's assuming it has a gated manual transmission and 3 pedals.
Which is throwing shade at our producer, who is a tip. That's F1 Frog.
Kennan wants a Stradale.
I do. Oh, man. Yeah, the dream.
Filippo, do you have any parting thoughts?
I'm trying to think of any Ferrari that I want.
Yeah. What about the 456 Venice?
Oh, no. Filippo wagon.
You know what the problem is? He doesn't know what it is. If he knew what it was.
Of course I know what it is.
Of course I know what it is.
I knew that his M5 had...
He says, of course I know what it is. Meanwhile, he doesn't know he couldn't tell a Diablo from a Gallardo. He doesn't know what a Lamborghini silhouette is.
That might be true.
I know what an Oldsmobile silhouette is. That can't give me anything.
This is the best podcast we've ever done.
Best podcast we've ever done. No parting words from Filippo. You're not even going to tell people to download the app?
Oh, yeah. Go download the app. Go to the Apple store.
Sell your car.
App Store on your iPhone and download the Cars and Bits app.
You have to go to the App Store on your iPhone? You can't
That's the easiest way to download it to your iPhone.
Can you send the app to your iPhone from a different device?
I don't think so.
Apple's got some work to do.
Yeah.
Get on it,
Sure do.
Apple.
But it's a great app. Download it.
Goodbye, everyone.